If you won't go to a home, get out of my house. He screamed it. My son, David. His gaze sharp, unforgiving. I stood silent, offering only a faint smile. My hands moved, folding clothes carefully, tucking away old photographs, closing the worn leather suitcase. An hour later, a black limousine stopped in front of the house. David opened the door, and the smile vanished from his face as he saw who had come. It was as if the ground had betrayed him. That feeling, watching the child you once held, nursed, taught to walk, and realizing the stranger before you. That was David, throwing me out. Not just out, but out of my house. The one I'd built over 32 years. Stitch by painful stitch. Sewing wedding dresses for other women. Every piece of lace. A brick. But that Sunday in March, none of it mattered. I was washing dishes. As always, because Emily, my daughter-in-law, had decided I belonged in the kitchen. My floral dress was damp, my calloused hands trembling slightly as I held the sponge. David walked in, wearing that familiar frown from childhood scoldings. But his father, Albert, had been gone for 13 years. The 42-year-old man before me was no longer a boy. Mom, we need to talk. I dried my hands on an embroidered towel, turned, and offered a tired smile. What is it? Dear Emily appeared. Red nails, and sleek hair, dark lipstick. She leaned against the doorframe. A spectator waiting for a show. We've decided, David said, avoiding my eyes. The house feels cramped. The kids need space. You're getting older. Maybe it's time for a place that fits you better. My heart hammered. I knew what was coming. A place that fits me better, I repeated slowly. You mean a nursing home, Mom? There are some really nice ones. Friends. Activities. Nurses. A nursing home. The word shot out like a bullet. You're trying to send me to a nursing home. The kitchen air grew heavy. Emily scrolled on her phone. David finally met my gaze. In his eyes, coldness. A stranger's detachment. Not a nursing home. Mom. An upscale assisted living community. The only difference, I said, my voice steady, is you're trying to get rid of me. I wouldn't let them see my tremor. Then go, David shouted. If you won't move. Pack your bags and leave my house. His yell echoed, bouncing off walls I'd painted, through hallways where I'd hung photos. Upstairs I'd cleaned daily for 3 years. Emily's smirk, hidden poorly behind her hand, was a final thread snapping inside me. Not my heart, that had shattered long ago. This was the illusion of family. Finally gone. I breathed deep, looked at the son I no longer knew, and did the unexpected. I smiled. All right, David. I'll pack. His face twisted. Confusion mixed with fear. He'd expected tears. Please? A scene? Only a chilling calm met him. I walked upstairs to the tiny room, more closet than bedroom, where I slept. My old leather suitcase, the same one from 3 years ago, came out. I folded my clothes, blouses, dresses, scarves, all sewn by my hands. I took a small wooden box of photographs. Albert and me. Our wedding. Baby David in my arms. My mother in our old backyard. No tears fell. An hour later, I carried the suitcase downstairs. David sat on the couch I'd bought. Emily beside him. Triumphant. The doorbell rang. David seaed, annoyed, and opened the door. His face, I will never forget. A sleek, black limousine. The driver opened the back door, and out stepped Henry Montgomery, in his 70s. Silver-haired. Navisuta. Albert's former business partner. The wealthiest man in the neighborhood, and he had come for me. David froze, mouth open. Emily turned pale. Henry walked past David as if he didn't exist. Straight to me. "Catherine," he said warmly, smiling. "Are you ready?" I picked up my suitcase. Gave David one last look. "Thank you for everything." "David, the house is all yours now." I stepped outside. His smile was utterly gone. Through the limousine's rear window, I watched him motionless on the porch, my elegant exit a tableau. For the first time in 3 years, I felt free. The faint scent of leather and expensive cologne filled the air. Henry sat beside me. Respectful distance. My hands clutched the suitcase. The only real thing left. They trembled. Not from fear, but a strange mix of relief and disbelief. "Catherine, are you all right?" Henry's soft voice. I wanted to say I was fine. Pretend control. But a weary sigh escaped. "I don't even know how I feel." "Henry, it's all too new." He nodded. We watched the city pass. Cars. Billboards. The world moving on, as if my life hadn't just imploded. At his building, a luxurious glass tower downtown. I needed his arm to step out. Security guards bowed. He smiled. I remained invisible. Just a woman beside him. The mirrored elevator reflected a 6-8-year-old woman in a simple dress, gray hair neatly tied, eyes swollen from unshed tears. "You still look beautiful." "Catherine," Henry said gently, reading my thoughts. "You always have." I wanted to laugh, to tell him he must be mistaken. But the sincerity in his eyes silenced me. His apartment, a penthouse on the 23rd floor, overlooked the city. When the doors opened, I stopped in awe. Marble, high ceilings, sunlight through glass walls, elegant yet warm decor. "Your room is upstairs," Henry said, carrying my suitcase. "Own bathroom, closet, balcony. Make yourself at home. This is your house now." My house now. Those words echoed as I climbed polished wooden stairs. The bedroom, twice the size of David's cramped space, held a king-size bed with crisp white sheets. Golden sunlight filtered through linen curtains. The air smelled fresh. A new beginning. I sat on the bed's edge, and the tears finally came. Not from sadness, but exhaustion. Years of pent-up pain finally released. I cried until the city glowed under nightlights. My phone vibrated nonstop. David calling. I let it ring. Then again. I declined. Notifications flooded in 47 missed calls. 23 messages. "Mom, where are you? Please answer." "Who was that man? Can we talk, Mom?" "I'm worried." I laughed quietly. Worried. After throwing me out of my own kitchen, I turned off the phone. A soft knock. "Catherine." I made some tea. Henry entered with a silver tray. Teapot. Cookies. He sat by the window, pouring tea without a word. Chamomile and Melissa. My favorite blend. "How did you know?" I asked. "Albert told me," he said gently. "You always drank it before bed." The mention of Albert made my heart ache. My Albert. Gone 13 years. "Why did you come for me today?" "Henry, how did you even know?" He paused. "Coincidence. I happened to drive by. Saw your grandson. Thought of stopping. Something told me to come back. Then I saw you. That suitcase. And David's face. I understood everything. He threw me out." I said, my voice flat. "My own son." Henry set his cup down. Fingers intertwined. "Catherine, I need to tell you something. Something I've kept to myself for many years." My heart raced. His eyes held peace and sorrow. "I've always loved you," he said quietly. The silence was so deep, I could hear my own breathing. From the day Albert introduced you as his fiancée, you were 23. In that yellow dress with little flowers. Your smile lit the room. I didn't know what to say. My mind went blank. Henry's voice. Softer but steadier. Albert was my best friend. You loved him. So, I kept my feelings, turned them into respect, into friendship. I married Laura, had children, built my life. But Catherine, he stopped, voice catching. You've always been the only one in my heart. Tears fell again. Confusion. Maybe. Or because, for the first time in so long, someone truly saw me. Not a burdened mother, but a woman with worth. Laura passed away 5 years ago. He continued. I honored my mourning. Waited. But I never found the courage to look for you. Henry stood. Stepped closer. Then knelt. A 73-year-old billionaire kneeling before a woman like me. But today, seeing you leave that house with the grace of a queen, I knew I couldn't lose you again. Henry. He gently stopped me. You don't have to say anything. Just know you're not alone. You'll never be alone again. He kissed my forehead. A promise. Then quietly left. I sat, staring at the glittering city, holding cold tea. For the first time in decades, truly seen. The next morning, Henry knocked. Put on something nice, he said. A mysterious smile. Important appointment. What kind? Trust me. An hour later, his attorney's office. A sleek glass building. Dr. Oliver Sampson. Bald with glasses. Shook my hand with unusual respect. Mrs. Catherine. An honor. Henry pulled out a chair. Oliver. Go ahead. The lawyer opened a blue folder. Mrs. Catherine. Mr. Montgomery wishes to grant you minority ownership shares in 3 Montgomery Holdings projects. This provides an estimated monthly income of $100,000, depending on quarterly results. I blinked. I'm sorry. What did you say? Henry smiled. You'll never have to depend on anyone again. Not on me. Not on an ungrateful son. Not on anyone. In that moment, my life had changed. David kept calling. 47 calls turned into 200. I never answered. Some doors, once closed, should stay closed. At least for now. But David didn't know the limousine wasn't the biggest surprise. His real nightmare was just beginning. I woke in Henry's penthouse. A foreign place. I opened my eyes to high ceilings. Linen curtains swaying. A dream, I thought. But no. I sat up slowly. Knees cracking. The price of age. On the balcony, New York looked different. Cleaner. Brighter. 8 Mari. Not the dull view from David's tiny room, a gray wall. A rusty water tank. A cold wave washed over me. I had ignored too much. Overlooked too many signs. Swallowed countless small cruelties for peace. Sitting in the swinging chair, memories flooded back. 3 years ago. I sold my small apartment, 2 bedrooms. Paid for by years of wedding dress sewing. Every square foot earned with sweat and needle. David arrived one Saturday. Emily beside him. That charming smile. Mom. It must be lonely. What if something happens, you're not getting younger? Age. A sentence. I'm fine. Dear. Friends. Routines. Emily. Sweet as syrup. Our house is big. The kids adore you. We'll take great care of you. Care. It sounded comforting. A lie wrapped in kindness. David scratched his head. Awkward. Actually, we're opening another store. Short on funds. If you sold your apartment, invested with us. A family partnership. So, I sold it. 10,000,000 handed everything to my son, believing I invested in his future. Our families. 3 years passed. Not a single penny back. Memories came. Layer after layer. My grandmother Clarice's jewelry vanished. A pearl brooch. A gold ring with an amethyst. An amber necklace. Not expensive, but priceless heirlooms from her flight during the war. I'd hidden them in a small blue velvet box in my dresser. One day, gone. Maybe you put it somewhere else and forgot, David said. Eyes on his phone. I didn't forget. Emily stood at the door, faintly smiling. Mother-in-law. At your age, forgetting is normal. My grandma was the same. Right before the nursing home. The nursing home. She'd been planting that idea. I never saw those jewels again. 6 months later, Emily on vacation in Cancun, wearing a bracelet identical to mine. Oh, I bought it at a craft market. She laughed. I didn't react. Swallowed my tears. Pretended to believe her. Afraid. Afraid of losing my son. Of being alone. Of admitting I'd raised a man too weak to defend his own mother. The worst memory 8 months ago. A summer night. Water. Emily's voice in the living room. Mom. A few more months and she'll be in that nursing home. I'll turn her room into my walk-in closet. Laughter. She suspects nothing. So naive. Still thinks her son loves her. I froze on the staircase, gripping the railing. We've already spent most of the money from her apartment, she continued. But don't worry. Once she's gone, we'll sell this house. Buy a smaller one. Still plenty left. David, he just does whatever I say. Weak men are easy to control. I went back to my room. Cried into a soaked pillow. Still did nothing. Hoping David would realize. Would stand up. Foolish me. The months were pure humiliation. Emily treated me like hired help. Mother-in-law. Since you're not working, I'll focus on my career. You take care of the house. Fair trade. So I cleaned. Cooked. Laundered. Babysat. Made Sunday lunch for 8. In return, a roof. A tiny room. The illusion of family. Catherine. Reheat Peter's food. Catherine. Iron my clothes. Catherine. Bathe Alice. I need to go out. Never a please or thank you. David sat there, pretending not to notice. One afternoon, my grandson Peter, 8, brought a family drawing. His dad, mom, sister, and a small figure in the corner. Who's this? That's you. Grandma. Teacher said to draw family. But Mom said you're not really part of it. Just staying here for now. His words cut through my chest. And what do you think? Sweetheart, I asked softly. He smiled innocently. I think you are family. You make chocolate cake every Friday. Sweetest. Most painful thing I'd ever heard. Sitting on this penthouse balcony, I remembered every humiliation. Every swallowed tear. Then, clarity. Not anger. Not sadness. For 3 years, I'd accepted crumbs of affection. Erased myself just to stay. Slowly disappearing under the fear of being thrown out. And in the end, they still threw me out. Because to Emily, I would never be enough. Just a burden. And David, my son, had chosen his side long ago. I had been blind, clinging to the memory of the boy he was, refusing to see the coward he had become. I picked up my phone. Died 3 missed calls. Messages kept coming. Mom, please answer. We need to talk. I didn't mean what I said. Didn't mean it, he said it. He shouted it. He threw me out like trash. I blocked his number. Henry knocked. Entered with a breakfast tray toast. Jam. Fresh orange juice. Sleep well, better than I have in 3 years. I replied. It was true. He sat, studying me. You look different. I'm remembering. I said slowly. All the times I stayed silent when I should have spoken. Henry nodded, understanding in his eyes. What do you plan to do now? I looked at him. Then, at the vast cityscape. Now I'll do what I should have done long ago. What's that? I smiled. Not the smile of pain, but of resolve. I'll remember who I am. When a woman remembers who she truly is, those who look down on her will learn a lesson they'll never forget. 2 days later, Henry took me to a massive commercial building downtown. Glass facades. Strict security. The air thick with the scent of corporate power. Trust me, he said, gently squeezing my hand in the elevator. 12th floor. A shiny gold plaque read Sampson and Associates. Corporate law. Oliver waited in a spacious conference room. What caught my attention wasn't the luxury, but the blue folder on the table. On it, Albert Montgomery. My heart stopped. Mrs. Catherine, please have a seat, Oliver said. I sat, legs almost giving out. Henry sat beside me, his touch grounding. Oliver opened the folder documents. Seals. Signatures. Before we begin, he said, over his glasses. Did you know your late husband was a co-founder of Montgomery Holdings? I did, I answered. Albert and Henry started that company in the 90s. And did you know his shares were to be divided among legal heirs? Yes. My son David told me everything belonged to him. At least, that's what he said. Henry and Oliver exchanged a look, the kind that precedes a devastating truth. Mrs. Catherine, Oliver said, pulling out another folder. Your son lied to you. The world seemed to stop. What do you mean? I gasped. Albert left a notarized will. 40% of the shares belong to you. 40% to David. 20% to the charitable foundation he created. He pushed a document toward me. Date. Signature. Official certification. Drafted 3 months before he passed. My hands trembled. Albert's signature. Bold and clear. My name? Baffinger Sischer. But David said the lawyer advised that since I didn't understand business, it was better if everything was under his name. I signed a power of attorney. You signed for him to manage it. Oliver corrected firmly. Not to steal it. Those are 2 very different things. You're still the legal owner of 40%. My head spun. Too much information. Too much anger. Too much betrayal. Henry's jaw tightened. There's more, he said. 2 years ago, David sold all the company's shares to an investment group. He forged your signature. Kept all the money. My throat tightened. How much? Oliver glanced at another document. The company was valued at $4. 2 million. Your 40% equals $1. 68 million, including interest. Adjustments. Emotional damages. The total is roughly $2. 3 million. Armeyuan. 3 million. While I was thrown out of my own house. Sleeping in a cramped room. Humiliated daily. My son sat atop that money. I want to sue, I said, my voice steady. Every cent back. With interest, penalties, and justice. Oliver smiled. The smile of a lawyer about to win. The lawsuit is ready. Just needs your signature. I took the pen. Signed 3 copies. Each stroke. A declaration of war. David will be notified within 48 hours. Oliver said, he'll have 15 days to respond. With this evidence, fake signatures. Bank records. Original documents, he has no way out. As we left, my mind spun. But in my chest, A new feeling power. On the way back, Henry stopped at a cafe. 2 espressos. He looked at me seriously. Catherine, are you sure? Suing your own son won't be easy. He'll fight. Emily will poison him. And your grandkids? I interrupted. My grandchildren need to grow up knowing their grandmother wasn't trampled on. That self-respect isn't for sale. And stealing from your own mother comes with consequences. Henry smiled. Pride in his eyes. Now that's the Catherine I know. That night, I turned off my phone. Over 49 missed calls. I slept the deepest sleep in years. No guilt. No fear. No regret. 2 days later, Henry's landline rang at 7 a.m. It was Oliver. He's been served. From his reaction, I'd say today is the worst day of your son's life. I hung up, looked out the window, the sun rising over New York's skyline, and me, I was just getting started. David thought he was clever, that I'd never find out. He forgot one thing. I'm the daughter of Italian immigrants. And Italians, when betrayed, take back everything. 3 weeks passed since the court summons. 3 weeks of my complete silence. 3 weeks David likely aged 10 years. I knew because Henry had hired a private investigator. Not for revenge, but strategy. Knowing your enemy is half the battle. And yes, my son was now my enemy. That Saturday morning, it was time to look him in the eye. Not for nostalgia, not reconciliation, but because some conversations demand face-to-face. I turned my phone back on. He picked up immediately. Mom? Thank God. We need to talk. This is a huge misunderstanding. I can explain. Grant's restaurant. Tonight. 8 p.m. You and Emily. Don't be late. I hung up. Henry, lounging in his armchair, chuckled. You're magnificent when you're in control. I learned from the best. I said, winking. By 7:30. I was ready. A black, knee-length dress. Sewn years ago. Never dared to wear. Low heels. Hair loose. Silver strands shining. Lips painted deep red. When I came downstairs, Henry stood abruptly, astonished. Catherine, you look stunning. I smiled lightly. Revenge is best served cold. But one can still look beautiful while enjoying it. We arrived at Grant's exactly at 8. Elegant restaurant. Crystal chandeliers. White tablecloths. Gloved waiters. David and Emily were in a corner. Uneasy. Their faces changed when they saw me. David went pale. Emily's eyes widened. I was no longer the old woman in a floral dress, soaked with dishwater. I was myself again. The woman they had forgotten existed. I walked toward them, feeling every gaze. Like a queen. Mom, David jumped up, trying to hug me. I sidestepped, sat across from them, crossed my legs, signaled the waiter. A glass of red wine. Please. Thank you. The air was thick with tension. Emily fidgeted. David avoided my eyes. You two look quite polished. I said casually. Emily. New dress. Isn't it, and you? David. A Tag Heuer watch. Right. Very nice. David swallowed hard. Mom. About the lawsuit. Oh. The lawsuit, I interrupted, smiling. Yes. We should talk about that. I opened my purse, pulled out a brown envelope, set it on the table. I want you both to see this. Emily eyed it, as if it were a ticking bomb. What's that? She asked, voice shaking. Open it and see. David tore it open, trembling. Color drained from his face. Copies of forged documents. My falsified signature. Bank statements showing $1. $68 million transferred to his account 2 years ago. Where did you get this? He whispered. Your father was a careful man. David kept copies of everything in a safe. When he died, he left me the key. Ally. They didn't need to know that. I just never thought I'd use them against my own son. Mom. I can explain. Then go ahead. I said coldly. Explain why you forged your mother's signature. Why you stole nearly $2 million from me. Why you let me sleep in a storage-sized room while you spent my money on Swiss watches and luxury restaurants. The waiter brought the wine. I took a long sip. Bitter taste. Sweeter than anything I'd ever tasted. Emily tried to regain composure. Mother-in-law. We didn't mean. I turned to her, my stare making her recoil. Be quiet. You have no right to speak to me. You're the one who stole my grandmother's jewelry, turned me into a maid in my own home, and planned to throw me into a nursing home so you could turn my room into your closet. Emily went pale. How did you? Houses have ears. And you talk way too loud on the phone. David buried his face in his hands. Mom, this is all my fault. Emily has nothing to do with it. Good, I said, leaning forward. Then admit it. Admit you stole my money, threw me out of my own house, and screamed at me like an animal. Tears rolled down his face. But I felt no pity. I don't know what happened to you anymore. David, the boy I raised, is gone. All that's left is a coward who chose money over his mother. Mom, I'm sorry. I laughed. A dry, empty sound. You're only sorry because you got caught. Because now you'll have to give everything back. Every cent. With interest and damages. I stood, grabbed my purse. Funny. I once sold my apartment to invest in you. 10万元. And while I lived cramped in a tiny room, you sat on nearly $2 million of my money. The company was struggling. Mom, I needed the money. I raised my voice. A few people turned. But I didn't care. Needed it to buy a new car. To vacation in Cancun. To buy designer dresses while your mother washed your clothes and slept in a room without a window. The silence was suffocating. Emily's eyes welled. Tears of rage. Not remorse. Your lawyer will deal with mine, I said, stepping back. Either you return what belongs to me peacefully, or the court will make you. And trust me, it'll hurt a lot more. Mom. Wait. I turned one last time. One more thing. David. When I die, and it won't be anytime soon, because now I have a reason to live longer, don't come to my funeral. Don't shed fake tears. Don't pretend to be a devoted son. You had your chance. You threw it away. I walked out, head held high. Henry's driver waited. I got in, breathed deep. Only when the car started moving did my body begin to shake. A single tear. Not from sadness, but relief. At last. After all these years, I had said everything. But that dinner was only the beginning. Once Emily realized she was about to lose everything, her true face emerged. The trap she set nearly destroyed me. The worst was yet to come. After that dinner, I thought I could finally breathe. The darkest days were behind me. Justice would follow. I was wrong. A week later, Henry entered my room with a look I'd never seen: anger, disgust. Catherine, we need to talk. His tone made my stomach twist. That tone never brought good news. He sat on the bed, holding a brown envelope, avoiding my eyes. The investigator I hired found something. He paused. It's about Emily. What now? I asked. He opened the envelope. Photographs. Emily entering a hotel, leaving an apartment. Several shots of her kissing a man. Younger. Muscular. Shaved head. Tight tank top. Definitely not David. Who is he? I asked. though deep down, I knew. Ethan Carter, Sancharar, fitness trainer, works downtown. Henry flipped more pictures. They've been seeing each other for at least a year. 2, 3 times a week. Always the same hotel. A strange wave of satisfaction rose. So, the perfect wife had her own dirty secrets. Anything else? Henry nodded, pulling out bank statements. Remember your mother's jewelry, the missing pieces, sold at a downtown jewelry store. 23000美元. Money transferred into a joint account. Emily secretly opened with this man. I froze. 23000美元. My grandmother, Clarice's heirlooms. Priceless keepsakes. Sold to fund her affair. And this? He said, handing me one last paper. Plane tickets to Cancun. Booked last year under Emily and Ethan. A 7-day stay at a 5-star hotel. Paid with a credit card tied to David's account. Everything was true. Her girls' retreat was a honeymoon with her lover. Funded by stolen money. Does David know? I asked. Henry sighed. He does. 6 months ago, the investigator found old messages. David found out. Emily cried. Begged forgiveness. Promised to stop. He accepted it. Accepted it. I couldn't believe it. He's afraid of her. Henry said quietly. Afraid of divorce. Of losing the kids. Of being alone. So he chose to pretend he didn't know. I walked to the window, staring down at the traffic. My son, the same man who stole from me, was too weak to throw out the woman who betrayed him. Give everything to Oliver, I said coldly. This changes the entire case. Henry frowned. What do you mean Emily manipulated my son? Used him to access family assets. Sold my mother's belongings to fund her affair. That's not just infidelity. That's fraud. I want her in prison. Henry gave a sharp smile. I'm already arranging that. 2 days later, I rang the bell of the house that used to be mine. Emily opened the door, forcing a smile filled with hatred. What do you want? I want to speak privately with my son. She was about to object, but David appeared behind her. Thin, hollow-eyed. Let her in. Emily. I stepped inside, feeling a wave of unfamiliarity. Everything was the same furniture. Paintings. Lavender scent. But this place was no longer home. David led me to his office. Shut the door. We looked at each other in silence. He looked frail. Slumped. Aged 10 years. I know about Emily and Ethan, I said bluntly. He froze. His lips parted, then closed. No words. I know she's been cheating. I know you found out and said nothing. I know she sold Grandma Clarice's jewelry to pay for her trip with him. I stepped closer. And I know one more thing. You're a coward. Mom. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple, I shouted. She manipulates you. Uses you. Betrays you. And you still chose to throw your mother out instead of her. David broke down, sobbing. I'm scared. Mom. Scared of losing the kids. Scared of being alone. Scared of living without her. In that moment, I understood. My son wasn't just weak. He was trapped in a toxic relationship so deep he couldn't see he was a victim. Emily had hollowed him out. Made him a puppet. Part of me felt pity. But the larger part, the one most deeply wounded, couldn't forgive. David. Look at me. I cupped his face, forcing him to meet my eyes. You have to choose. Either you wake up and realize she's destroying your life, or you'll lose everything: the company, the money, the children, and your mother. He wept harder. I don't want to lose you. Mom. Then do something. Prove it. I stepped back. Because if you keep living like this, you've already lost. I walked out. Emily stood in the living room. Having overheard everything, I passed her without a glance. but stopped at the door. "Oh, Emily," I said coldly. "I hope you enjoyed those Cancun trips. Because your next one will be to prison." Her face drained of color as I walked out, filled with something I hadn't felt in a long time. Real strength. That night, Oliver called. "Catherine, we have a problem." My heart clenched. "What kind of problem?" "Emily just filed for a restraining order against you. Claims you threatened her life in front of witnesses." I froze. "She also requested the court restrict your contact with the children, saying your presence is psychologically harmful to them." The world crashed. "That's impossible." "It's possible." And she did. "The hearing is next week." I dropped the phone, hands shaking. Emily had played dirty. Very dirty. For the first time since leaving that house, I felt true fear. Fear of losing Peter and Alice, of never seeing them again. Fear that the venomous woman might actually win. But she forgot one thing. You never mess with the grandchildren of an Italian grandmother. Every poison has its antidote. What I did next turned everything around. That week was the worst. Worse than the day I was thrown out. I could endure humiliation, betrayal, loss. But being forbidden to see my grandchildren, that was a line no one could cross. For 3 sleepless nights, I sat on the balcony, watching city lights, Peter and Alice, their smiles, Alice's sweet grandma Catherine, our Friday chocolate cakes. All could be stolen by one lie. On the morning of the hearing, I wore a dark blue suit, hair neatly pinned, composed, dignified. Not the dangerous old lady Emily painted. Oliver picked me up at 8 a.m. In the car, he reviewed the plan. "Stay calm. Don't react. Let me handle it. And be ready. Emily will lie a lot." The courthouse was an old building, downtown, smelling of paper and damp. Hallways narrow, crowded with murmuring lawyers. At the end of the corridor, Emily stood. Modest dress, light makeup, hair in a bun, no jewelry. The picture of a model mother, David beside her. Head bowed, unable to look at me. The hearing room was small, stifling. The judge, a woman in her 50s, short hair, stern face, read the file in a dry voice. "Restraining order hearing. Case number." My heart pounded. Emily's lawyer, a heavy man in a wrinkled suit, stood. "Your Honor, my client has lived in constant fear since Mrs. Catherine threatened her." He opened a folder. "A witness confirms," the defendant said. "Your next trip will be to prison." That is a direct threat. The judge looked at me over her glasses. "Do you confirm saying that Oliver stood?" "Your Honor, context must be considered. I'm asking the defendant." The judge interrupted. I breathed deep. "Yes." I said it. But it wasn't a threat. It was a legal statement. I kept my voice steady. "She sold family assets to fund her affair. That's a crime." Whispers. Emily flushed red. "Liar!" she shouted, jumping up. "She's making this up to destroy me." Order. The judge banged her gavel. "Sit down, Miss Emily. Only I ask questions here." Her lawyer continued. "Besides the threat, there's a child welfare concern. The 2 minors, Peter, 8, and Alice, 5, live in an environment of tension. Mrs. Catherine often visits unannounced, makes accusatory remarks, causing emotional distress. I only visited once in an entire month." I burst out. The judge raised her hand. "Mrs. Catherine, please remain silent." She turned back to the lawyer. "Go on." "Peter has nightmares," he said dramatically. "He told his teacher his mother and grandmother are always fighting. He doesn't want to lose either. Alice has started wetting the bed again, something she hadn't done in 2 years. Therefore, we request Mrs. Catherine be prohibited from contacting the children until this family matter is resolved. It felt like my soul was being torn out. No seeing my grandchildren. No hugs. No more baking. Tears filled my eyes. Oliver immediately stood. Your Honor, this is blatant manipulation. The plaintiff is using the children as weapons to pressure my client in an ongoing multi-million-dollar property dispute. We have evidence Emily embezzled assets, sold heirlooms, used the money for an extramarital affair. That's not within the scope of this hearing. The judge cut him off. We are only addressing the restraining order. But, Your Honor, it's all interconnected. I understand your point. Counselor. She flipped through the file in silence. Then she spoke quietly. I grant the petition in part. My world collapsed. Mrs. Catherine is prohibited from approaching the family residence. I held my breath. The judge looked up. However, visitation rights with her grandchildren will remain, provided meetings take place in a neutral location and under supervision once a week. It wasn't what I hoped for. But it wasn't the worst. Emily. Triumphant. Even the smallest restriction against me satisfied her. I left the courthouse completely drained. Henry waited outside. The moment he saw me, he rushed forward, held me tightly. Right there, on the dusty sidewalk. I broke down, cried harder than since Albert died. Cried for the injustice, the cruelty, for watching my son sit motionless, silent, while his wife destroyed his own mother. She won. I sobbed. She separated me from my grandchildren. Henry tightened his embrace. She hasn't won. Catherine, this was just one battle. The real war is still ahead. That night, I couldn't eat or speak, sat on the balcony, staring into the endless night. Henry tried to comfort me. Tea, blanket, music. Nothing calmed me. Late that evening, he sat beside me, took my hand. Catherine, look at me. I turned, eyes swollen. That woman doesn't know who she's dealing with, he said. She underestimates you, thinks you'll bow down. But she forgot one thing. What's that? I asked quietly. He smiled. That you're the strongest woman I've ever known. You raised a son alone, worked for decades, lost your husband, and still stood tall. This won't be the thing that breaks you. His words sparked a small flame. Then what do you want me to do? Henry stood, walked into his study, returned with a thick folder. I want us to stop defending and start fighting back. I opened it. Balance sheets, contracts, financial reports. David's business is on the brink of bankruptcy, Henry explained. Poor management, reckless spending, bad investments. In 6 months, he'll owe over $500,000. I looked up. How do you know that? He smiled. Because I quietly bought up his debts through a few intermediary companies. I'm now his biggest creditor. I can make his company collapse anytime I want. It took a few seconds to process. You did this for me. Henry looked at me for a long time. I did it because David deserves the consequences. And because now you get to decide his future. I looked down at the documents, at those red numbers, realizing my son's fate was literally in my hands. For the first time in days, I smiled. Emily could play dirty, but she had forgotten Italian grandmothers know how to play, too. And when they fight back, they fight to win. The next morning, I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't anger anymore. It was strategy. I drank coffee, reread Henry's documents. David's company was drowning in debt, unpaid taxes, overdue salaries, vendors, a disaster, through shell companies. Henry now controlled over $520,000 of that debt. But something didn't feel right. I called Oliver. I need a forensic accountant. The best one you know. For what? Every dollar of my son's company investigated for the past 3 years. Every invoice. Transaction. Expense. What are you looking for? Catherine, proof. Proof of who really caused the company's downfall. Oliver understood. All right. A full report in a week. While waiting, I did something I never thought I would. Hired a private investigator specializing in child welfare. I want to know how my grandchildren are living. I told the serious man. Track their routines. Meals. School attendance. I suspect she's neglecting them. He nodded. Taking notes. Report in 10 days. A week later, Oliver arrived with a thick folder. Serious, but with a spark of satisfaction. Sit down. Catherine, you need to see this. He opened the folder spreadsheets. Charts. Yellow notes. Your son isn't a thief. David's just incompetent. Bad investments. Trusting the wrong people. His money's been drained systematically by one person. I held my breath. Emily. Exactly. He pointed to the figures. Over the last 3 years, more than $340,000 disappeared from the company. Unauthorized withdrawals. Transfers to fake accounts. Payments to non-existent vendors. He flipped a page. Every trail leads to 3 destinations. A joint account under Emily and her lover Ethan's names. An investment under her mother's name. And a secret apartment purchased solely in hers. I clenched my fists. She hadn't just betrayed my son. She'd ruined him financially. Slowly. Deliberately. There's more. Oliver said, handing me another document. Your grandmother Clarice's jewelry. It wasn't sold for $23,000 like she claimed. It was actually sold for $58,000. She pocketed the difference through a fraudulent deal with the jeweler, who happens to be her cousin. My hands trembled. Fury. Relief. Finally. Real proof. What do we do now? I asked. Oliver gave a cold smile. Now we destroy her. The very next day, the investigator brought the report about my grandchildren. Peter had missed 3 days of school because his mother forgot him. Lunches were fast food. Snacks skipped. Alice had started wetting the bed again. Not from fear of me, but because her mother spent hours yelling on the phone, arguing with David late into the night, leaving the kids alone with the TV. Photos and videos, Peter waiting outside school at 5 p.m. No one to pick him up. Alice crying at the playground with a sunburn. Undeniable evidence of neglect. I held those pictures. Hands shaking. My grandchildren, I whispered. Is it enough? I asked Oliver, handing him all the files. Financial fraud. Child neglect. Clear proof. He flipped through the pages, then grinned. Catherine, you don't just have enough evidence. You're holding an arsenal. But one thing still tore at me. David. Weak. Manipulated. Yet still my son. Part of me wanted revenge. But another part wanted to save him. That night, on the balcony with Henry, I could destroy them both. I said, enough evidence to send Emily to prison. Gain custody of the kids. Bankrupt David. But I looked down. He's still my son. Henry took my hand. So what will you do? I took a deep breath. I'll give him one last chance. One. But on my terms. I turned to Henry. I'll offer a deal. I'll erase the $520,000 debt if he does 3 things. Divorce Emily immediately. Attend therapy with me and the kids. And repay the $1. $6 million he stole. Even in installments. My voice turned to steel. If he refuses, then I'll end it for both. Emily will go to prison. David will lose everything. And I'll take custody of Peter and Alice. Henry looked at me with admiration. Catherine, you're not just strong. You're brilliant. The next day, Oliver drafted the agreement terms. Witnesses. Notarization. David's final chance to prove he had any decency left. The meeting was set for Tuesday morning at Oliver's office. A neutral place with lawyers, a therapist, and 2 official witnesses. I arrived 15 minutes early, wearing a simple gray dress, hair neatly pinned, no jewelry. I wanted to look like myself, calm, steady, unshakable. Henry sat beside me. Oliver reviewed documents. Forensic accountant Paul prepared his laptop. 2 court witnesses stood ready. At exactly 10 a.m., the door opened. David walked in first. Thin suit hanging loose. Unshaven. Dark circles under his eyes. A man who had lost everything. Emily followed. Tight red dress. High heels. Makeup thick enough to hide her fear. Her arrogance replaced by dread. Their lawyer, the heavy-set man, came in last. "Good morning," Oliver began. Cold and firm. "Thank you all for coming. This meeting is for reconciliation. But everything will be recorded and may be used in court." Emily opened her mouth. But her lawyer stopped her. "Please proceed." Oliver turned on the projector. Detailed charts appeared on the wall. "Let's get straight to the point. Over the past 3 years, more than $340,000 have disappeared from Mr. Pierre, David's company." He pointed at red numbers, unauthorized transactions, and fraudulent payments. Illegal transfers. David's eyes widened. He turned to Emily, now pale. What is this?" he stammered. "Lies, all lies," Emily shouted. Forensic accountant Paul stood, spoke calmly. "Nothing here is fabricated. Ma'am, all data was pulled directly from the company's accounting system and cross-checked with bank statements and verified invoices." He clicked the next slide. "Here is a $53,000 transfer to a joint account under the names Emily Montgomery and Ethan Carter." The lover's name hit the room like a gunshot. David jumped up, fast drained. "Ethan, you put his name on your account, David." "Let me explain." "Explain what I said," coldly, as Paul moved to the next slide. "Property purchase in Miami. 2-bedroom ocean view apartment. Price $280,000. The room fell dead silent. David staggered, grabbing the table for balance. Ghostly white. "You bought a house with him, with my money." Emily was cornered, eyes darting for an escape that didn't exist. "And there's more," I said, my voice slicing through the air like a blade. Oliver changed to the next slide. Photos of my grandchildren appeared. Peter sitting alone outside school. Alice's sunburned arm. Records of missed school days. Skipped meals. "While you were busy with your lover and stealing money," I said slowly, "your children were being neglected." The therapist opened a file. I contacted the school. The principal is deeply concerned. Peter shows signs of aggression. Alice has regressed developmentally. David broke down, burying his face in his hands. "I didn't know. God, I didn't know." "Because you never looked," I shouted, losing control for the first time. "You were too busy being her slave to see she was destroying everything. Your company, your children, and your mother." Emily shot up, pointing at me. "You're just a bitter old woman. You're doing this because you can't stand that your son has his own life. You call betrayal, fraud, and child neglect a life I stood to. You're a liar, a thief, and a terrible mother." "Enough," Oliver slammed his hand on the table. "Both of you. Sit down." I took a deep breath, regained composure. Emily stayed standing, trembling with rage. Her lawyer leaned in, whispered, "Sit down. You're making this worse." She sat, eyes stabbing daggers at me. Oliver opened the final folder. "David, now it's your turn." He placed a document in front of my son. "Your company owes $520,000. Those debts have been acquired by Mr. Henry Montgomery, through intermediaries. He has the legal right to file bankruptcy proceedings at any time. David looked at Henry, then at me. Disbelief in his eyes. Oliver continued. However, there's an offer. Your mother is willing to erase the entire debt if you agree to 3 conditions. I slid the contract toward my son. David read aloud, voice trembling. Immediately divorce Emily. Attend family therapy for at least 1 year. And repay the $1. 68 million taken from my father's assets in 10 years. Interest-free. The room was silent. I looked straight into his eyes. If you agree, I'll help you rebuild your life. The company can recover. You can reclaim your place as a father. Something those 2 children desperately need. And if I refuse, he whispered. If you refuse, I said firmly, I'll end it all. Emily will be prosecuted for fraud and embezzlement. You'll go bankrupt. And I'll fight for full custody of Peter and Alice. Because both of you have proven yourselves unfit to be parents. Emily screamed. Don't sign it, don't you dare. David, she's just bluffing. Oliver slid another set of papers toward her. This is the official complaint already filed. Charges fraud, forgery, and embezzlement. The documents will be sent to the court this morning. Emily's face went pale. David looked at the paper, then at me, and finally back at her. David, don't do this, Emily pleaded. Tears streaming. Think about the kids. About our family. Family. David turned to her. Voice low but firm. You destroyed this family. You stole my company. Betrayed me. Used my mother's money to buy a house with your lover. And now you dare to talk about family. He picked up the pen and signed. Emily screamed. Cursed. Tried to grab the papers. But building security held her back. Coward, traitor. You'll regret this. David looked at her. Voice trembling but steady. I've already regretted it. Regretted wasting 13 years before seeing who you really are. Emily was escorted out, still yelling. When the door finally closed, silence. David collapsed into his chair, buried his face, sobbing uncontrollably. I walked over, placed my hand on his shoulder, and whispered, Now we start over. From nothing. Together. He hugged me. And we cried. Some things, though broken, can still be mended. 6 months. It may sound short, but when rebuilding a life from ashes, each day feels like a year. Now I sit on the balcony of my apartment, sipping morning coffee. September sunlight streams through the window. Below, New York wakes. Here, I finally have peace. So much has changed. Emily is serving 200 hours of community service, cleaning a public children's center. She's lost everything. The oceanfront apartment auctioned to pay debts. Her lover, Ethan, disappeared the moment the money ran out. Funny how people like that vanish when pockets empty. She still tries to call the kids. Sometimes Peter answers, polite but distant. Alice still cries after every call. But the therapist says time will heal. As for David, my son now lives in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. Modest, tidy, bright. He works for a logistics company. No longer owner, no longer boss, just an employee. Last week, he told me, Mom, for the first time in years, I sleep well. No debts, no lies, no poisonous voice whispering in my ear. He has shared custody, Tuesdays and Thursdays. The kids stay with him. Every Saturday, they visit me. Today is Saturday. I look at the clock. Jo Yi-woo. My heart beats faster. Every time feels as emotional as the first. The doorbell rings. I open the door. Grandma Alice runs into my arms. Hair longer. 2 front teeth missing. Peter follows. 8. Trying to act grown up, but still hugging me tight. Grandma. We brought all the ingredients to bake. Dad let us pick everything at the store. David stands at the door, holding 2 big bags. He looks healthier. Light in his eyes. Good morning. Mom. Good morning. Son. Henry steps out from the kitchen, holding a dish towel. Well, are we ready to make the best chocolate cake in America? My little chefs, the kids cheer. Rush to the kitchen. It becomes a sweet battlefield flower everywhere. Alice's hands covered in chocolate. Peter focused on cracking eggs like a scientist. David stands next to me, whisking the batter silently. After a while, he says softly, Mom, thank you for what I ask, for not giving up on me, even when I didn't deserve it. I place my hand over his. You're my son. I can be angry. I can hurt, but I'll never abandon you. I can step back, but I'll never turn away. He quickly wipes away a tear. Therapy helped me see I'd been emotionally abused for years. She controlled every part of me. I'm not saying that to excuse what I did, but now I understand why I was so blind. And now, he smiles. A genuine smile I hadn't seen in so long. Now I feel free, as if I'm alive again. The cake finishes baking. Scent of chocolate fills the house. Alice shouts from the living room. Grandma, is it ready 10 more minutes? Sweetheart. We cut the cake. Sit around the table. Peter talks about school. Alice proudly shows me her drawing of family grandma. Dad. The 2 kids. And Henry. All holding hands. Where's your mom? David asks quietly. She's on another page. Alice answers innocently. Because she lives far away now. Children have their own way of understanding things. Simple, yet profound. Henry looks at me from across the table. Smiling. I return his warm gaze. When everyone leaves, and David takes the kids to the park, Henry and I sit again on the balcony. He takes my hand. Catherine, you did it. You rebuilt everything. We did it. I say, I couldn't have done it alone. You could. He laughs. You're the strongest woman I've ever known. I rest my head on his shoulder, watching the sun paint the city in gold. You know what I've learned from all this? I ask softly. What's that? He says. That we don't have to settle for broken pieces. That self-respect isn't for sale. And even when life shatters us into 1,000 fragments, we can still piece ourselves back together. I turn to him. And when we rebuild ourselves with our own hands, we never return to what we were. So, what do we become? Henry asks. I smile. We become diamonds. They thought they could break me. But they didn't know I've been shattered and reborn too many times to learn how to become a diamond. And diamonds? You see, don't break. They only shine.